What's up guys, Josh here, FPS Tech, and behind me over here is the all-new Territory by Ford. Now there's a chance that you've probably been seeing more and more of this vehicle on the road lately, and I'm sure you guys are also wondering what this new player has up its sleeves, or hood rather. So without further ado, come along with me and let's check it out. The Ford Territory is the newest addition to the car manufacturer's lineup, and as you can see, it's a crossover SUV like no other that's clearly meant to battle not just the ins and outs of the city, but even take on long-distance trips during the weekend without a single hitch. Tailored for the Asian market, this vehicle comes in two variants, namely the Trend and the higher Titanium Plus version, which is what we have here with us today. Now, some of you may or may not already know that the Territory is a product of Ford's partnership with Jiangling Motors, so this may not come to a surprise to you guys anymore when you hear that this is just a rebadged 2016 Yusheng S330. But you know what? It's more than that. The Ford Territory is powered by a 1.5-liter EcoBoost engine mated to a CVT transmission that's able to put out 141 horses of power between 4,500 and 5,200 RPM and 225 Newton-meters of torque at 1,500 to 4,000 RPM. It's got a fuel tank capacity of 52 liters, and with an average fuel consumption of around 7 to 10 kilometers per liter depending on the driving scenario, this should easily last you at least 360 plus kilometers before running out of fuel. Now, despite sharing a close resemblance to the S330, the Territory definitely holds its own if you look at the bigger picture and is actually quite a good-looking vehicle. It's got a sleek and modern design, a bunch of smart features, and is imprinted with Ford's DNA if you can't already tell by the large front clip with some extra sharpness. We've got a gloss back front grille with chrome inserts and runs on an LED setup including the back. So that's the headlamp, your taillight, daytime running lights, and your turn signal indicators, making for a very apparent car on the road, even in bright scenarios. While the fog lamps at the front use a warmer yellow light that's quite bright as well. Some of that sharpness trickles down to the rear, evident in their floating roofline design and their faux dual exhaust tips, which are really only there for cosmetic purposes to give it a sportier edge. Well, at least it looks good, but yeah, the real exhaust is actually behind that. The side of the Territory boasts some nice contouring, large wheel arches, a ground clearance of 180mm, and some chunky two-tone 18-inch wheels, which, might I say, is a very nice touch, Ford. Wrapping everything together at the top are your roof rails and a panoramic moonroof that is easily accessible for both the driver and fellow passengers to enjoy. If you guys are wondering about color options, what you're seeing now is the Moonstone Blue variant, but there are quite a few more to choose from. That is Crystal Pearl White, Diffused Silver, Ruby Red, Panther Black, and Star White. Out of all of Ford's vehicles, this really caught our eye as this might be the one packed with the most tech in it, which we like a lot because, you know, FPS Tech, get it? Yep. Anyways, now is also a good time to show you guys just how smart this is because it's equipped with a bunch of sensors and surround view cameras for that 360-degree view. We have one at the front and the rear and one at the bottom of each side mirror. Now onto the interior. Heading over to what you're going to be seeing the most, the Ford Territory has a very refined look to it. From the door trims to the interior surfaces all the way down to the switches, the finish definitely boasts a very premium aesthetic. Once you step in the car though, the first thing that usually catches anyone's attention is the 10-inch central touchscreen display that not only provides you with infotainment but also controls a lot of things on the Territory. We've got of course your rotary knob that controls multimedia functions, as well as the center display itself if you don't feel like reaching out to touch the screen. And right above that is your gear selector along with a few other functions on the side. On the left from top to bottom is your electronic parking brake, auto hold, and sport mode, while on the right we have your lane keep assist, enhanced active park assist, and a button to switch off your parking sensors. All of these functions will reflect on the dashboard, making it easier to keep you less distracted. Another thing that I really like about this area over here is the fact that these switches can sometimes make you feel like you're piloting an aircraft. It actually is a little reminiscent of the switches on the Ford Mustang, so that's another nice touch over there. As for the steering wheel, it has a nice leather texture to it and holds a number of functions to keep your hands on the wheel as much as possible. Although this might be a little tough at first because there's just so much to touch and tinker around with, so just don't get too distracted. Speaking of distracted, the chrome accents on the Titanium Plus variant do give off a premium feel at the beginning, But if there's one caveat that I can't help but mention, it's how it can actually be a little blinding when driving under a sunny day, so do keep that in mind. Moving on to more of the good stuff, the leather seats are nice and relaxed, making for a very comfortable seating position. It's a 5-seater setup with some space at the back to accommodate some storage, and is actually quite spacious enough, so no need to worry about carrying passengers at full capacity. Checking the behind, here's where you can find the ever so spacious trunk, which can easily fit your luggages and whatnot if you fancy traveling out of town. Now, if you want even more space, folding the rear seats will give you a lot more room for hauling more stuff. Or maybe you just want to lay down and gaze at the sky with that large moonroof that we mentioned earlier. Sweet. Taking a look at the key very quickly, this is a keyless ignition system, so nothing mechanical here except for the emergency key tucked away. Moving on, you'll notice at the very bottom of the key is this trunk open button. I assume this would open automatically, but pressing on the button only seems to unlock it. I mean, I can already do that with the unlock button itself, so that's kind of weird. But just to double check, if you look at the actual hydraulic rods, there doesn't seem to be anything electronic, so yeah, you're going to have to open this one yourself. And it's actually a little heavy if I'm being honest. It is quite spacious back here though, so you might be able to fit another person in here, making for a lovely 6-seater vehicle. I'm just kidding. Now the inside is fine and dandy, but when things start to get a little dim, this is where the interior really shines. As far as customization goes, you can change the colors of the accent lights to your liking, change the central touch display's background, or even change how the digital instrument cluster looks. I personally fancy this classic mode the most, so let's just keep that on here. Now this area shows you just about everything you need to know about the vehicle's status, such as things like your mileage, the multimedia screen, and tire pressure, while below that we've got a dedicated section for your lane keep assist and cruise control functions, all of which work well. Now what I like about these two front seats is the fact that they are both heated and cooled, and yes, they do exactly what you think. They both come in 3 levels, and while heated seats are not going to be much of a help for a tropical country like the Philippines, these cooled seats are definitely going to be more useful, especially for situations where you have to leave your car parked out under the scorching heat of the sun, so that's a nice touch. Other smart features include your sensors, an 8-speaker system, 3 charging ports, a wireless charging bay above the gear selector if your phone is compatible, and one of my favorite experiences / co-pilots to drive with for navigation and multimedia, which is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay for iOS users. Now, driving the Ford Territory feels good and is downright comfortable. It can be nimble when in conservative situations like when you're in the city, but can also bring some excitement to the table when you want. Although if there's one problem that I noticed when driving this car is the fact that it can be a little bit too safe. Well, certainly too safe shouldn't be all that bad, right? Well, because there are so many cameras and sensors baked into this vehicle for anti-collision purposes, they do tend to overanalyze the surroundings, so as a result, you're going to be hearing a lot of this. With the Asian market in mind, I mean, it's nearly impossible to actually have enough space for it not to constantly beep, especially in bumper-to-bumper traffic. In the busy streets of Metro Manila, it's almost second nature to drive alongside motorcycles, bikes, and even pedestrians that weave into traffic haphazardly, so yeah, it's going to beep quite often. You can always turn off your sensors, which can be found right next to your gear selector, and we do have a feature to turn this off as well in the settings, so that's fine and dandy to keep your driving experience a little bit more peaceful. But it would be cool if we could manually set how close of a proximity it takes before the sensors activate instead, like maybe a high, mid, and low setting. Now that would be cool, but hey, safety first, right? Parking assist has also been a feature we've been seeing a lot on these Fords, and this one can actually do both parallel and perpendicular. Trying it in real life though is a little bit of a hit and miss, so I usually just end up doing it myself since my reaction time is much faster. Parking in non-conventional spots is also going to be a no-no for this one, but when it works, it parks quite perfectly as you can see over here, and can even help you with getting out of tight spots right after. It may be worth mentioning as well that the only thing automated is going to be the steering wheel, so you're still going to have to control the foot pedals manually. Some vehicles do have the fully automated parking function, and although obviously this is not going to be one of those, at least we still get some form of control in case anything goes wrong. Now these are nice features to have and all, but not something a driver would necessarily need, especially an experienced one at that. But you know what? This might actually be a good car for new drivers if the constant beeping is more helpful to you than it is bothersome. As for performance, the 1.5-liter turbocharged engine does a good job at trying to be as sporty as it can. And while torque is pretty responsive, handling could use a little bit more of work, as cornering isn't this car's strong suit with its rather soft suspension. More so, you can tell that this isn't really meant to take you from 0 to 100 in 5 seconds either, more like 0 to 100 in 10 seconds, but she's still certainly a puller. We managed to stretch this baby up to a sweet 177 kilometers per hour, don't ask how, at about 5,000 RPM, and of course this is done in sport mode as well. It does take some time to reach this speed, and the engine actually still had more power to show if the roads allowed for a further stretch. As for your average fuel consumption, being quite aggressive on the accelerator got us around 7.7 kilometers per liter, while more conservative driving in the city gives about 9 kilometers per liter. Driving on the highway is about 13 to 14 kilometers per liter, so that's nice as well. Now, if you guys want to compare the Trend versus the Titanium model very quickly, externally, the Titanium Plus boasts a different set of 18-inch wheels that are an inch bigger than that of the Trend, and has additional chrome accents all over with some black plastic cladding below the door. Inside, we have more notable differences. The Titanium Plus sports that wood trim that you saw earlier, electronically adjustable seats, and has a slightly more premium cabin atmosphere, while the Trend is a little bit more subtle with the bling, but still keeps all the essentials. For the most part, the Ford Territory does have an evident mix of Asian elements, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, as much as you can say that this was based off a Chinese manufactured vehicle, if you're a globally expanding company, at some point you're going to need to deeply strategize logistics in order to keep up with the growing demand, right? Think of it as a simple adapt, resource, and outsource kind of thing. Sure, it may not look like the beefy all-American Ford that most of us know, but the spirit is definitely there, plus it just looks damn good. The Ford Territory has a starting price of 1,179,000 pesos for the Trend and 1,299,000 pesos for the Titanium Plus variant, and comes with 3 years of free preventive maintenance as well. At this competitive price range, it's not a hard sell given everything you're getting out of it. So if you enjoy a comfortable ride with a bunch of smart features packed into a sweet looking compact crossover, then this is something that you might want to consider in your upcoming wishlist. So what do you guys think of the Ford Territory? Let us know in the comment section down below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and be sure to visit ukutech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. This has been Josh, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video.